Two German shepherds was heard, crying from a deep well. What happened next? Left everyone in tears. The sound that changed everything came on a Tuesday morning. What 5-year-old Marcus discovered that day would leave an entire community sobbing, and you won't believe the miracle that followed. Don't forget to like, share, and let us know in the comments where you're watching from. Marcus pressed his small hands against the cold wooden fence post, his breath creating tiny clouds in the crisp autumn air. The fog hung so thick over Cedar Valley that morning, you couldn't see more than 20 feet ahead. His grandfather Samuel hammered another nail into the loose board, the sharp crack echoing across their small farm. Then Marcus heard it, a sound that made his whole body go still. "Grandpa, stop," Marcus whispered, his voice barely audible over the morning birds. Samuel paused mid-swing, looking down at his grandson. The boy's face had gone pale, his dark eyes wide with something Samuel couldn't quite place. Fear? No, something else. Something that reminded him painfully of Marcus's mother, his daughter Sarah, who'd had that same look whenever she sensed something others couldn't. "What is it, buddy?" Samuel lowered his hammer, studying the child who'd come to live with him just 8 months ago. 8 months since the accident that took Sarah and her husband. 8 months of trying to help a 5-year-old understand why Mommy and Daddy weren't coming back. "Listen," Marcus said, tilting his head. "Can't you hear them crying?" Samuel strained his ears, but heard only the usual morning sounds. Distant cows, rustling leaves, a crow calling from somewhere in the fog. Hear what, Marcus? The dogs? They're scared. Really, really scared. Marcus's bottom lip trembled. And they're getting tired. Samuel's first instinct was to dismiss it as imagination. The boy had been through so much trauma. The child psychologist had warned him about possible episodes, hallucinations even. But something in Marcus's certainty made him pause. The kid wasn't prone to making things up. If anything, he'd been too quiet, too withdrawn since the accident. "Where do you think these dogs are?" Samuel asked carefully, setting down his tools. Marcus pointed into the fog, toward the east where the old Henderson property lay abandoned. "That way. Far but not too far. Grandpa, they need help. One of them is trying so hard to be brave, but she's getting weaker." The intensity in the boy's voice sent an unexpected chill down Samuel's spine. "Marcus, how could you possibly know?" "I just know." The words burst out of Marcus with surprising force. Tears suddenly spilled down his cheeks. "The same way I knew Mommy was hurt before the phone rang that night. I just know things sometimes, especially about animals. Mommy said it was a gift, but I don't want it if it only tells me bad things." Samuel's heart clenched. He remembered that night too. Marcus had woken, up screaming about his mother being hurt a full 10 minutes before the police called. He'd dismissed it as coincidence at the time, too shocked by grief to process it properly. But now... "Okay," Samuel said softly, pulling the boy into his arms. "Okay, we'll go look. But we stay together and we're careful. Deal?" Marcus nodded against his grandfather's flannel shirt, his small body trembling. "We have to hurry. The water, there's water, and it's getting higher." "Water? What water?" But Marcus was already pulling away, heading toward the house to get their coats. 20 minutes later, they walked along the narrow dirt road that bordered the Henderson estate. The fog had lifted slightly, but the morning remained gray and damp. Samuel carried a flashlight and his cell phone, though signal out here was spotty at best. Marcus walked slightly ahead, stopping every few yards to listen to something only he could hear. "The crying is louder," he said, his voice hushed, "but also weaker." Does that make sense? It didn't, but Samuel nodded anyway. They reached the rusted gate of the Henderson property, its no trespassing signs faded and peeling. The old man had died 6 months ago, no family to claim the land. The bank owned it now, but nobody had bothered to do anything with it yet. "We shouldn't go in there," Samuel said, his hand on the gate. "It's not our property." Marcus looked up at him with those enormous dark eyes, Sarah's eyes. "Grandpa, they're dying." "I can feel it. Please." Against his better judgment, Samuel pushed open the gate. It groaned loudly, the sound harsh in the morning quiet. They walked up the overgrown driveway, weeds catching at their legs. The old farmhouse loomed ahead, its windows dark and empty, like hollow eyes. Not the house, Marcus said, tugging Samuel's hand to the left. Over there, behind those bushes. They pushed through a tangle of overgrown forsythia and blackberry vines, Samuel using a stick to hold the thorny branches aside. And then they saw it. An old stone well, its wooden cover broken and rotting, several planks missing entirely. It was the kind of well you'd see in storybooks, made from field stones mortared together, probably over 100 years old. Marcus ran forward before Samuel could stop him, dropping to his knees at the well's edge. "Down there! Grandpa, they're down there! Get back from the edge!" Samuel grabbed the boy's shoulder, pulling him away from the dangerous opening. That's not safe. But he'd already seen them. His flashlight beam had caught the reflection of eyes looking up from the darkness below. 2 German shepherds, about 20 feet down. The larger one, a female from what he could tell, stood in water that reached her chest. She had positioned herself against the wall, and the younger dog, barely more than a puppy, was draped across her back, keeping its head above the waterline. "Oh my God," Samuel breathed. The mother dog, because that's what she had to be. The way she was protecting the younger one, looked up at them with eyes that held such exhaustion, such desperate hope, that Samuel felt his throat tighten. Her legs trembled with the effort of standing, of holding up her companion. How long had she been doing this? 2 days, Marcus said quietly, as if reading his grandfather's thoughts. She's been holding her up for 2 days. Since the rain. Samuel stared at his grandson. How could you possibly? She's telling me. Marcus's voice was matter of fact, as if this was the most normal thing in the world. Not with words, with feelings. Pictures in my head. She's so tired, Grandpa. But she won't let go. She won't let the younger one drown. The mother dog let out a weak whine, barely audible from the depth. The sound was pitiful, hopeless, yet somehow still determined. The younger dog didn't move at all, might have been unconscious. Samuel pulled out his phone, his hands shaking. 1 bar of signal. He dialed 911, praying it would connect. 911, what's your emergency? We've found 2 dogs trapped in a well on the old Henderson property off County Road 47. They're about 20 feet down, standing in water. They need immediate help. Sir, I can dispatch animal control, but they're currently handling another emergency. It could be 3 to 4 hours before... 3 to 4 hours? Samuel's voice cracked. These animals are drowning. I understand, sir, but... Marcus suddenly grabbed the phone from his grandfather's hand. The mommy dog is pregnant, he said loudly into the phone. She's having babies inside her, and she's been standing in cold water for 2 days holding up the other dog. If you don't send someone now, she's going to die, and so will her babies and the other dog too. Samuel took the phone back, his mind reeling. Pregnant? He looked down into the well again, and now that Marcus had said it, he could see the swollen sides of the mother dog, not just from malnutrition, but from pregnancy. Sir? The dispatcher's voice sounded more concerned now. Can you verify? Just send whoever you can, as fast as you can, Samuel said, and hung up. He immediately dialed his neighbor Tom's number. Tom was a construction worker, had equipment, maybe rope. Tom? It's Sam Wilson. I need your help. Bring rope, lots of it. And that ladder from your truck. Yes, now. Henderson property. I'll explain when you get here. He made 3 more calls, to Maria, the veterinary assistant who lived 2 miles down the road, to his friend Bill, who had a winch on his truck, and to anyone else he could think of who might help. Each time, Marcus stood by the well, lying on his stomach despite Samuel's protests, whispering down to the dogs. We're going to get you out, the boy kept saying. Hold on just a little longer. I know you're tired. I know everything hurts, but help is coming. The mother dog's eyes never left Marcus's face. Even from where Samuel stood, he could see her tail attempt a feeble wag. Just the slightest movement, but it was there. She understood. Somehow, impossibly, she understood. Tom arrived first, his truck kicking up dust as he skidded to a stop. He jumped out with coils of rope over his shoulder, took one look at the situation, and whistled low. Jesus, Sam! How long have they been down there? Marcus says 2 days. Tom looked skeptical at the attribution, but didn't comment. He was already assessing the well's structure, testing the stability of the edges. This thing's old. Real old. See how the mortar's crumbling? And that water. That's not rainwater collection. That's groundwater seeping in through cracks. This well's been compromised. What does that mean? But Samuel already knew. Means it could collapse, especially with weight and movement. We put too much stress on these walls. Tom didn't finish the sentence. Maria's car pulled up next, and she came running with her veterinary bag. She took one look down the well and gasped. "Oh no. Oh, those poor babies." She turned to Marcus. "You found them?" Marcus nodded, not moving from his position by the well's edge. "The mom's name is Hope," he said suddenly. "That's what she wants to be called. Hope. And the younger one is Faith." Maria and Tom exchanged glances over the boy's head, but Samuel noticed Maria didn't dismiss the naming. Instead, she called down, "Hope! Hope, sweetie, we're going to get you out. Both of you." The mother dog's tail moved again, stronger this time. "She's responding to the name," Maria said, wonder in her voice. That's impossible. She couldn't know." "She knows," Marcus said simply. "She knows we're trying to help. But she's getting really tired. Her legs hurt so bad." Tom had tied the rope into a makeshift harness. "I'm going down," he announced. "I can rappel." "The walls won't hold," Samuel protested. "You just said, then we do it fast." Tom was already securing the rope to his truck's winch, before they give out entirely. But as Tom lowered himself over the edge, a chunk of stone broke away under his weight, falling into the well with a splash. Both dogs flinched, the younger one letting out a weak cry, the first sound they had heard from her. More stones followed, pelting down around the animals. "Pull me up! Pull me up!" Tom shouted, and Samuel helped haul him back over the edge. "It's no good." The whole thing's ready to come down. "There has to be another way," Maria said desperately. She looked at her watch. "Animal control won't be here for hours. These dogs don't have hours." Marcus suddenly stood up, his face streaked with tears, but his expression determined. "Someone's coming," he said. "Someone who can help." They all turned to look at him. "How do you know?" Samuel asked. "Hope knows. She can smell him. He smells familiar, like someone she used to know." Before anyone could question this, they heard another vehicle approaching. A black pickup truck, newer than Tom's, with professional equipment visible in the bed. The man who stepped out was tall, broad-shouldered, maybe 40 years old, with dark hair and tired eyes. He wore a volunteer firefighter's jacket. "Heard on the scanner about animals trapped in a well," he said without preamble. "I've got rescue equipment." But as he approached, his steps slowed, his face went pale. This is my father's property." Samuel studied him. "You're Henderson's boy?" "Daniel." The man nodded, his eyes fixed on the well. "I haven't been here in 5 years. Not since." He trailed off, then seemed to shake himself. "Doesn't matter. Let me see." He looked down into the well, and his whole body went rigid. "Oh my God, Hope!" The mother dog's head snapped up at his voice. She let out a sound, not quite a bark, more like a cry of recognition. "You know this dog?" Maria asked. Daniel's hands gripped the edge of the well so tight his knuckles went white. "She was mine. Before. I gave her to my father when I went away. When I went to prison. The admission hung in the air like a physical thing. 5 years for exposing a dog-fighting ring. Except I did it the wrong way, took the law into my own hands. Hope was the dog that started it all. They were using her as a bait dog. I stole her, raised her, loved her. Then I had to leave her." Marcus walked over to Daniel and took his hand. The man looked down, startled. "She forgives you," Marcus said softly. "She wants you to know she forgives you for leaving. She understood." Daniel's face crumpled. He dropped to his knees beside the well. "Hope, girl, I'm so sorry. I'm going to get you out, I promise." "The walls are unstable," Tom warned. "Already tried. I've got proper equipment." Daniel was already moving to his truck, pulling out professional rappelling gear, a rescue harness designed for animals, and what looked like support braces. "And I know this well. Helped my father maintain it years ago. There are metal rungs on the north side, built into the stonework. Some might still hold." As he worked, setting up his equipment with practiced efficiency, he talked. "My father called me 3 months ago, said Hope had puppies, said she'd found another dog, a younger female who'd been dumped on the property, and she'd adopted her like her own pup. He named the younger one Faith because he said it took faith to believe in second chances. "Your father sounds like he was a good man," Samuel said. Daniel's jaw tightened. "He was. I was the disappointment. Chose revenge over family, chose anger over forgiveness. He died trying to protect these dogs." "What?" Maria looked up sharply. "The people I exposed, some got away. They came looking for Hope 6 months ago. Knew she was valuable for breeding fighting dogs. My father wouldn't tell them where she was. They hurt him. He had a heart attack right after. Managed to call 911, but died before they arrived. Hope and Faith must have been hiding. Must have stayed hidden all this time." Marcus tugged on Daniel's jacket. "Hope says your dad saved them. He told them to run and hide. They've been living in the old barn, but the storm scared them. They fell in when the wood broke." Daniel stared at the boy. "How do you—" "He knows things," Samuel said quietly. "I can't explain it, but he knows." Daniel nodded slowly, accepting this without question. Maybe when you'd seen enough impossible things, one more didn't matter. "Then he knows I'm going to save them." He finished securing his equipment, tested each connection twice. The support braces were positioned to distribute weight away from the weakest points. "Tom, I need you on the winch. Maria, get ready to receive the first dog. Sam, keep everyone else back when they arrive." "Others?" But even as Samuel asked, he heard more vehicles approaching. Word had spread. In a small community like Cedar Valley, word always spread. Daniel lowered himself carefully into the well, his headlamp illuminating the walls as he descended. They could hear his voice, soft and steady, talking to Hope the entire way down. "Hey, beautiful girl. Remember me? Remember our walks? Remember that time you stole an entire turkey off the counter? Dad was so mad, but I snuck you the drumstick anyway." Hope's tail wagged weakly, her eyes locked on Daniel as he descended. "The water's higher than it looks from up there," Daniel called up, almost to Hope's shoulders, "and it's cold, really cold." Marcus lay on his stomach again, watching intently. "Faith is hurt," he announced. "Her back leg. That's why she can't stand. Hope's been holding her up so she won't drown." Daniel reached the dogs, moving slowly to avoid startling them. "I see it," he confirmed. "Faith's right, rear leg is badly swollen, might be broken." He gently touched Hope's head, and she leaned into his hand with a soft whine. "Oh, sweetheart. You've been so brave, so brave." He carefully maneuvered Faith off Hope's back, the younger dog crying out in pain. "I know, baby. I know it hurts." He secured Faith in the rescue harness, making sure her injured leg was supported. Pulling up the first dog, Tom worked the winch slowly, carefully, as Daniel guided Faith up through the narrow space. The walls groaned ominously, more pieces of mortar falling into the water. Maria grabbed Faith as soon as she was within reach, pulling her to safety. "She's hypothermic," Maria announced, immediately wrapping the dog in blankets from her car. "Severely dehydrated. This leg is definitely broken, and— oh my God." "What?" Samuel asked. "She's also pregnant. Not as far along as Hope, but both dogs are pregnant." The small crowd that had gathered, Samuel hadn't even noticed them arriving, let out a collective gasp. 2 pregnant dogs trapped in a well, one holding the other above water for days. "Sending the harness back down," Tom called. But as the harness descended, they heard Daniel's voice, urgent and frightened. "Hope's in trouble. She's collapsing." Marcus jumped to his feet. "Her babies! Her babies are coming!" "That's impossible," Maria said. "She can't be in labor." "The stress," Daniel's voice echoed up from the well. "The cold water, the exhaustion, the stress. She's going into premature labor. I can see— oh God, the first puppy is coming." The crowd pressed closer, everyone trying to see. Samuel held Marcus back from the edge, though the boy struggled against him. "Let me talk to her," Marcus cried. "She needs to know it's okay." "Marcus, please." "She's scared her babies will die in the water. She's giving up." Samuel looked at Maria, who nodded. "Let him try." At this point, Samuel held Marcus securely as the boy leaned over the edge. "Hope! Hope! Listen to me. Your babies are going to be okay. Daniel's there. He won't let anything happen to them. You have to be strong just a little bit longer. From below, Daniel's voice thick with emotion. She's looking up at the boy. She's pushing. The puppy's coming. The next few minutes felt like hours. Daniel's voice provided a running commentary as he delivered the first puppy in the cold water of the well, 20 feet below ground. Got it! Not breathing, doing compressions. Come on, little one. A tiny squeaking cry echoed up from the well, and the crowd erupted in tears and cheers. One puppy alive, Daniel called. But there are more coming. I need to get Hope up now. But even as he tried to get Hope into the harness, she delivered a second puppy, then a third. Each one had to be rescued from the water, resuscitated, and somehow kept safe while Daniel worked alone in a rapidly deteriorating situation. The water's rising faster, he reported. The wall on the south side is buckling. Tom looked at Samuel. We need to get him out of there. Not without Hope, Daniel's voice was firm. I left her once. I won't leave her again. Marcus suddenly pulled free from his grandfather and ran to Daniel's truck. He came back with a blanket, which he began tearing into strips. Lower these down. He can wrap the puppies and tie them to himself. It was brilliant in its simplicity. They lowered the fabric strips, and Daniel fashioned makeshift slings, securing each puppy to his body. Hope watched him handle her babies, her trust absolute despite her pain and exhaustion. Fourth puppy coming, Daniel announced. Hope's getting weaker. I don't think... A loud crack echoed through the morning air. A section of the well wall shifted visibly. Get out of there, Tom shouted. Now! Not without Hope. The whole thing's going to collapse. Samuel made a decision that went against every rational thought in his 68-year-old mind. He grabbed the backup rope Tom had prepared. I'm going down. Sam, no, Tom protested. You're not equipped. I'm not letting that man and dog die down there. Samuel was already lowering himself over the edge, his arthritis screaming in protest. Marcus, you keep talking to Hope. Tell her we're not leaving her. The descent was terrifying. The walls were wet, crumbling, pieces falling away under his hands and feet. He could hear the stone groaning, feel the vibration of imminent collapse. But he kept going because below him, a man was trying to save a dog who'd already saved another. And sometimes, that's all that mattered. He reached Daniel just as Hope delivered the fifth puppy. The water was now up to Daniel's waist, which meant it was nearly over Hope's head. She was swimming weakly, barely keeping her nose above water. Together, Samuel said, not wasting words. They got Hope into the harness, Daniel supporting her weight, while Samuel secured the straps. 5 puppies were now tied to Daniel's chest and back, their tiny cries a miracle of sound in the darkness. Pull her up, Samuel shouted. Fast? The winch engaged, and Hope rose through the air, her eyes finding Marcus's face and holding his gaze until she passed over the edge to safety. The crowd erupted in cheers, but there was no time to celebrate. The wall! Someone screamed. The south side of the well was collapsing inward. Stones the size of melons were falling into the water. Samuel grabbed Daniel and the rope just as the metal rungs Daniel had been standing on tore free from the wall. Climb! Samuel shouted. Don't look down, just climb. They climbed through falling stones and cascading water, the well literally disintegrating around them. Daniel climbed one-handed, the other protecting the puppies tied to his chest. Samuel's arthritis made every movement agony, but adrenaline pushed him beyond his limits. Hands reached down from above, Tom, Bill, others, pulling them up the final feet just as the entire south wall collapsed inward with a roar that shook the ground. They sprawled on the grass, gasping, as the dust settled over what had been a well and was now just a pile of rubble. Daniel immediately began checking the puppies, his hands gentle despite their shaking. 5 alive, he said, his voice breaking. All 5 alive. Maria was working on Hope, who lay on her side, breathing but not moving. She's in shock, hypothermic, exhausted beyond measure. She looked up at the crowd. I need blankets, hot water bottles, anything warm. People scattered to their vehicles, returning with blankets, coats, even hot coffee from thermoses that they poured into bowls to warm the dogs' bodies. The entire community had mobilized around 2 dogs and 5 newborn puppies. Marcus knelt beside Hope, his small hand on her head. You did it, he whispered. You saved Faith. You saved your babies. You can rest now. Hope's eyes opened, finding first Marcus, then Daniel. Her tail moved, just once, but with purpose. "She says thank you," Marcus said, looking at Daniel. "And she says your father would be proud." Daniel broke down then, sobbing while cradling two of the puppies against his chest. This man who'd gone to prison, who'd lost everything, who'd come to save a dog he'd thought he'd never see again. He sat in the mud and cried while a 5-year-old boy patted his shoulder. "Mr. Daniel," Marcus said softly, "Hope wants you to know something else." Daniel looked at the boy through his tears. "She says she never stopped waiting for you to come home." The crowd stood in stunned silence, many openly weeping. They'd witnessed something that transcended a simple animal rescue. They'd seen love, sacrifice, redemption, and the inexplicable connection between a boy and two dogs that had brought an entire community together. But the story was far from over. As Maria worked to stabilize both dogs and the puppies, as Daniel struggled to compose himself, as Samuel held his grandson close, a dark sedan with tinted windows drove slowly past the Henderson property entrance. Only Marcus noticed it. Only Marcus felt the chill that had nothing to do with the morning air. He pressed closer to his grandfather, his eyes following the car until it disappeared around the bend. "Grandpa," he whispered, too quiet for others to hear. "The bad men. The bad men are coming." Samuel felt his grandson tremble and held him tighter, but his eyes were on hope and faith, on the puppies, on Daniel, who was carefully loading them into Maria's van to rush them to the veterinary clinic. Whatever Marcus meant, whatever was coming, they'd face it together. They'd already survived the impossible once today. The water had risen, the walls had collapsed, but love had refused to let go. The sedan's engine faded into the distance, but the cold feeling in Marcus's stomach remained. He watched Maria's van pull away with both dogs and the puppies, Daniel following in his truck. The crowd began to disperse, neighbors hugging each other, wiping tears, sharing phone numbers to check on the dog's progress. "You did good today, buddy," Samuel said, ruffling Marcus's hair. But he noticed how the boy kept glancing at the road, his small body tense. Tom approached them, his clothes still muddy from the rescue. "Sam, that was something else. That grandson of yours, he's special." "I'm starting to understand that," Samuel replied. But his mind was on Marcus's whispered warning. Bad men. What bad men? "We should get to the clinic," Marcus said suddenly, urgently. "Hope needs us there." The drive to Cedar Valley Veterinary Clinic took 20 minutes, but it felt longer. Marcus sat silent in the back seat, his hands pressed against the window, watching every car they passed. Twice he made Samuel slow down, staring intently at vehicles before shaking his head and letting them continue. "What are you looking for?" Samuel finally asked. "I don't know exactly. Just something Hope showed me. A feeling." Marcus's voice was small, confused. "Like when you know someone's watching you, but you can't see them." They arrived at the clinic to find organized chaos. Maria had called ahead, and doctor. Patricia Brennan, the head veterinarian, had cleared the surgical suite. Through the window, they could see both dogs on examination tables, AV lines already being placed, heating pads warming their bodies. Daniel sat in the waiting room, still cradling one of the puppies that Maria had asked him to keep warm. His firefighter's jacket was ruined, covered in mud and blood, but he didn't seem to notice. He looked up when they entered, his eyes red-rimmed. "The puppies are all breathing," he said immediately, "but they're premature. Dr. Brennan says the next 12 hours are critical." Marcus walked over and sat beside him, not speaking, just present. After a moment, Daniel shifted the puppy so Marcus could see it better. A tiny thing, no bigger than a hamster, its eyes sealed shut, making small mewing sounds. "This one's a fighter," Daniel said softly. "Kept crying the whole way up from the well. Wouldn't give up." "Like his mom," Marcus said. "Hope never gives up. That's why she lived through the bad place." Daniel's head snapped toward the boy. "Bad place? What bad place?" Marcus looked confused, as if he'd said something he hadn't meant to. "The place with the chains, and the mean dogs, and the men who smelled like cigarettes and beer." Daniel's face went pale. "She was a bait dog. I knew it when I rescued her 5 years ago, but how do you know about that?" "She shows me sometimes, pictures in my head, feelings." Marcus touched his chest. "Here, Like when your heart hurts, but it's not your hurt. It's someone else's. Before Daniel could respond, Doctor. Brennan emerged from the surgical suite, pulling off latex gloves. Everyone in the waiting room, Samuel, Daniel, Marcus, Tom, who'd just arrived, and several neighbors who'd followed from the rescue, stood up simultaneously. Both dogs are stable for now, she announced, and the collective exhale was audible. Faith has a fractured tibia that will need surgery once she's stronger. Hope is suffering from severe exhaustion, hypothermia, and yes, she was in premature labor. We've managed to stop the contractions for now. Stop them? Daniel asked. But the puppies? The 5 she delivered are all alive, though they'll need round-the-clock care. But Hope is still carrying more puppies. I can feel at least 3, possibly 4 more inside her. Marcus stood up, his face serious. 4. There are 4 more. 2 boys, 2 girls. Dr. Brennan looked at the child with surprise, but didn't dismiss his claim. After what everyone had witnessed at the well, Marcus's strange knowledge was becoming accepted, if not understood. If that's accurate, she said slowly, then Hope needs complete rest for at least a week to prevent delivering the remaining puppies too early. They need more time to develop. Can we see her? Marcus asked. Dr. Brennan hesitated, then nodded. Briefly, she's sedated, but sometimes familiar voices help. They followed her into the recovery room, where Hope lay on a heated bed, surrounded by monitoring equipment. Her breathing was steady, but labored. The areas where her collar had worn through the skin were bandaged, and IV fluids dripped steadily into her foreleg. Faith was on an adjacent table, her injured leg splinted, also sedated. Marcus approached Hope slowly, placing his small hand on her side, carefully avoiding the bandaged areas. Hey, Hope, you're safe now. Your babies are safe. Daniel's here, and he's not going anywhere this time. Hope's ear twitched slightly, the only sign she'd heard. Daniel moved to stand beside Marcus. I'm so sorry, girl. For everything. For leaving you. For not being there when my father needed me. For not protecting you from... He stopped abruptly, his attention caught by something on Hope's shoulder. He gently parted the fur, revealing old scars in a distinctive pattern. His face darkened with rage. Son of a bitch, he breathed, then caught himself, glancing at Marcus. Sorry. What is it? Samuel asked. These scars? They're from a breaking stick, a tool used in dog fighting to pry dogs' jaws apart. And this a pattern, like a brand almost? I've seen it before. It's Victor Crane's signature. Tom looked confused. Who's Victor Crane? Daniel's hands clenched into fists. The man who ran the dog fighting ring I exposed. The reason I went to prison. I thought he'd fled the state, but these marks... Hope was in his hands recently. Maybe when she was pregnant, which means... The puppies, Maria finished, having just entered the room. He'd want the puppies. German Shepherd puppies from fighting bloodlines can sell for thousands on the black market. Marcus backed away from Hope, his face pale. The car. The dark car that drove by. It felt wrong. Like the pictures Hope shows me of the bad place. Daniel pulled out his phone immediately. I'm calling the police. If Crane's in the area, already here, a voice said from the doorway. Officer Patricia Wilson, no relation to Samuel despite the shared last name, stood in her uniform, notepad in hand. Got a call about suspicious activity around the Henderson property. Also had a report of someone asking around town about 2 missing German Shepherds. She was young, maybe 30, with sharp eyes that took in everything. Mr. Henderson, Daniel, right? I remember your case. You exposed Crane's operation 5 years ago. Daniel nodded tightly. He's back. He's looking for Hope. How can you be sure? Daniel showed her the scars, explained their significance. Officer Wilson photographed everything, her expression growing more serious with each detail. We've been trying to nail Crane for years, she said. He always slips away, always has an alibi, but if these dogs were in his possession recently... They were, Marcus said suddenly. Everyone turned to look at him. Hope remembers. The place with the concrete floor and the red door. The smell of gasoline and cigarettes. The man with shiny shoes who hurt her when she wouldn't fight. She escaped 3 weeks ago when someone left a gate open. She found Faith on the road. Faith ran away from a different bad place. Hope took care of her like she was her own puppy. Officer Wilson knelt down to Marcus's level. "Could Hope show you more? Could you help us find this place?" Marcus looked uncertain. "I don't control it. It just happens sometimes. And Hope's really tired right now. She's using all her energy to keep her babies safe." "We might not need Hope to show us," Daniel said suddenly. "My father kept security cameras on the property. Hidden ones. He was paranoid after I went to prison, worried about retaliation. If Hope and Faith were living there for weeks, and if Crane's men came looking, the footage would still be on the hard drives," Tom finished. "If they haven't been destroyed." Officer Wilson stood up. "I'll need to see that footage immediately, and we should post protection here at the clinic. If Crane knows the dogs are here—" "He doesn't," Marcus interrupted. "Not yet. But he's looking. He has people looking." The certainty in the child's voice sent chills through everyone present. Officer Wilson made several calls, arranging for increased patrols around the clinic and the Henderson property. Daniel left with her to retrieve the security footage, promising to return soon. Samuel took Marcus home to rest, though the boy protested. "Hope might need me," he kept saying. "Hope needs you to be strong and rested," Samuel countered. "We'll go back this evening." But rest wouldn't come. Marcus paced his small bedroom, occasionally stopping to stare out the window, as if listening to something only he could hear. Samuel watched from the doorway, worry etching deeper lines in his already weathered face. "Grandpa," Marcus said suddenly, "what if the bad men hurt more dogs while they're looking for Hope?" Samuel didn't have an answer for that. The call came at 4 in the afternoon. Daniel's voice was tight with controlled fury. "Sam, you need to see this. Bring Marcus." They drove back to the clinic where Officer Wilson had set up a temporary command post in the conference room. A laptop showed grainy security footage from the Henderson property. Daniel started the playback. "This is from 3 weeks ago," he said. The screen showed the old barn on the Henderson property. A figure appeared, Hope, heavily pregnant, moving slowly but purposefully. She was followed by a smaller dog, limping, Faith. They disappeared into the barn. "Now watch this." 2 days later, 3 men appeared on screen, walking around the property. One was tall, wearing expensive shoes that gleamed even in the grainy footage. He gestured angrily, pointing at the barn, the house, seeming to direct the others to search. "That's Crane," Daniel said. "I'd recognize him anywhere." They watched Crane approach the barn, saw him enter. Minutes passed. Then he emerged, clearly furious, gesturing wildly at his companions. They searched for another hour before leaving. "The dogs must have hidden," Officer Wilson said. "But how did they know to hide?" "Hope's smart," Marcus said quietly. "She remembers his smell. She taught Faith to hide when they smelled danger." "There's more," Daniel said, fast-forwarding the footage. "This is from yesterday, the day before the dogs fell in the well. The same sedan from earlier appeared on screen. 2 different men got out, searching the property again. One carried what looked like a catch pole, the other had a tranquilizer gun. "They're escalating," Officer Wilson observed. "Getting desperate." "But why?" Samuel asked. "They're just dogs." Daniel pulled up something on his phone. "I did some research. 3 months ago, there was a huge dog fighting bust in Chicago. Hundreds of thousands in cash seized, dozens of dogs rescued. But the ringleader got away. Guess who the primary suspect was?" "Crane," Officer Wilson said. "And according to the underground forums I've been monitoring—" "Illegally monitoring," Officer Wilson corrected, though without much conviction. "Crane had already sold Hope's puppies to buyers. Big money. We're talking $10,000 per puppy to the right buyers. People who want dogs with proven bloodlines for fighting." Marcus made a small sound of distress. "But the puppies are just babies. They're good. They're not mean." "That's the point," Daniel said gently. "People like Crane take good dogs and try to make them mean. But it doesn't work on dogs like Hope. She was too gentle, so they used her as a bait dog instead." The room fell silent, everyone absorbing the horror of it. Then Officer Wilson's radio crackled. "Unit 12, we have a report of suspicious activity at Cedar Valley Veterinary Clinic. Black sedan, 2 occupants circling the parking lot." Everyone froze. Officer Wilson grabbed her radio. "Do not approach. Repeat, do not approach. Plainclothes units respond for surveillance." She turned to the others. "We need to move the dogs. Now." But Dr. Brennan shook her head. "Hope can't be moved. Any stress could trigger labor of the remaining puppies, and Faith needs surgery on that leg within the next 12 hours, or she could lose it. Then we protect them here, Daniel said firmly. I'm not letting Crane get near them again. Officer Wilson was already coordinating with her department, but Marcus tugged on her sleeve. There's something else, he said quietly. Hope knows something about Crane. Something important. But she's too tired to show me clearly. It's about papers. Important papers. Papers? Officer Wilson frowned. What kind of papers? Marcus closed his eyes, concentrating. In a blue folder. Hidden. Hope saw Crane hide them when he thought no one was looking. Under floorboards? No. Under something else. Something in the bad place. Daniel and Officer Wilson exchanged glances. Evidence, Daniel said. Crane was always meticulous about destroying evidence, but if Hope saw him hide something, we need to find that place, Officer Wilson said. The facility where Hope was kept. Over the next 2 hours, they pieced together clues. Marcus would close his eyes and describe what Hope had shown him. Sensory details, sounds, smells. A train horn in the distance. The smell of a specific kind of oil. The sound of trucks backing up, beeping. Tom, who knew the area better than anyone, suddenly snapped his fingers. The old Mitchell Warehouse District. There's a red door on the old processing plant. It's near the train tracks, next to a truck depot. Been abandoned for years. Officer Wilson immediately dispatched units to investigate, but they had to be careful. If Crane was there, they needed evidence before moving in. A bad search could let him slip away again. As night fell, the clinic became a fortress. Officers and unmarked cars patrolled the area. Daniel refused to leave, setting up a makeshift bed in the recovery room where he could watch Hope and Faith. Marcus convinced Samuel to let him stay too, curling up in a chair beside Hope's recovery kennel. I need to be here if she wakes up, he insisted. She gets scared when she's alone. It was near midnight when Hope began to stir. Her eyes opened slowly, unfocused at first, then sharpening as she recognized her surroundings. The first thing she saw was Marcus's face, the boy having woken instantly when her breathing changed. Hey, Hope, he whispered. You're okay. You're safe. Hope's tail moved slightly, then her eyes found Daniel, asleep in his chair. She whined softly and Daniel jerked awake. Hope! Hey, girl! He moved closer, his hand gently touching her head. You're going to be okay. Dr. Brennan, doing her midnight rounds, came to check Hope's vitals. Remarkable, she said. Her temperature's normal, heart rate steady. The remaining puppies seemed stable. Hope tried to lift her head, looking around, and Marcus understood immediately. She wants to see her babies, the ones that were born. Dr. Brennan hesitated, then brought over an incubator where the 5 premature puppies lay under warming lights, tiny tubes providing supplemental nutrition. Hope's tail wagged weakly at the sight of them, and she let out a soft, maternal whine. They're all doing well, Doctor, Brennan assured her, as if the dog could understand. 3 boys, 2 girls, just like you, have left inside. But the peaceful moment was shattered by Officer Wilson bursting through the door. We found it. The warehouse. And you were right. There's a blue folder hidden under a dog crate. Financial records, client lists, everything we need to put Crane away for life. Relief flooded through everyone, but Officer Wilson wasn't finished. There's more. We found 12 dogs at the facility. Fighting dogs, bait dogs, all in terrible condition. And Crane's there. He's barricaded himself inside with 2 accomplices. Daniel was already standing. I'm coming with you? Absolutely not. You're a civilian. I know Crane. I know how he thinks. And those dogs? They're terrified. They need someone who understands. Before Officer Wilson could refuse again, Marcus spoke up. Hope says you need Daniel there. The dogs will trust him. They can smell that he's good. It was absurd taking tactical advice from a 5-year-old claiming to communicate with a dog. But after everything they'd witnessed, Officer Wilson found herself considering it. Fine. But you stay behind the perimeter. You're there as a consultant only. Daniel kissed Hope's head gently. I'll be back, girl. Promise. As he left with Officer Wilson, Marcus stayed with Hope, his small hand on her side. It's going to be okay, he told her. The bad men won't hurt any more dogs. But Hope was restless, her breathing becoming labored. Dr. Brennan checked her quickly and frowned. She's going into labor again. The stress. We couldn't prevent it. The puppies aren't ready, Marcus cried. I know. We'll do everything we can. Dr. Brennan began preparing for emergency delivery. Samuel, take Marcus outside. No. Marcus pulled away from his grandfather. Hope needs me. She's scared. And indeed, Hope's eyes were wide with fear, her body trembling. She reached out with one paw toward Marcus, a clear plea. Dr. Brennan made a quick decision. He can stay. But Marcus, you need to be brave, okay? This might be scary. Marcus nodded, moving to Hope's head, whispering constantly to her. You're strong. You're the strongest dog ever. Your babies are going to be fine. The first of the remaining puppies came quickly, too quickly. It was smaller than the others, barely moving. Dr. Brennan worked frantically, clearing its airways, stimulating breathing. Come on, little one, she muttered. Marcus suddenly said, rub its chest in circles. Clockwise, 3 times, then blow gently on its nose. Dr. Brennan looked at him in surprise, but followed his instructions. The puppy gasped, then let out a tiny cry. How did you know that? She asked. Hope knew. Her mother did that when Hope was born, not breathing. The second puppy came easier, stronger, crying immediately. But Hope was weakening, her contractions becoming irregular. Miles away at the warehouse, Daniel watched as police surrounded the building. Through a window he could see the dogs in crates, cowering, some injured. His heart burned with rage and sorrow. Crane's voice echoed through a megaphone from inside. I want safe passage. And my dogs, they're worth millions. They're evidence now, Officer Wilson responded. And they're living creatures, not property. You don't understand, Crane sounded desperate. I have buyers waiting, dangerous people. If I don't deliver, then you should have thought of that before torturing innocent animals, Daniel called out, unable to stop himself. There was silence, then Crane's voice, recognizing him. Henderson, I should have known. You always were too soft, just like your pathetic father. Daniel started forward, but Officer Wilson held him back. Don't let him bait you. That's what he wants. Inside the clinic, Hope was struggling with the third puppy. It was stuck, too large, and Hope was too exhausted to push effectively. We might need to do an emergency C-section, Doctor, Brennan said, but she looked worried. In her weakened state, surgery could be fatal. Marcus leaned close to Hope's ear. I know you're tired. I know it hurts, but remember what you did in the well? You didn't give up then. Don't give up now. Hope's eyes found his, and something passed between them, a communication beyond words. Hope gathered herself, gave one mighty push, and the third puppy emerged, but she was hemorrhaging now, blood pooling beneath her. Get me plasma, Dr. Brennan shouted to her assistant, and prep for emergency surgery. There's still one more puppy, Marcus said, tears streaming down his face. She says she can feel it. She won't survive another delivery. We have to. Hope made a sound, not quite a bark, more like a demand. She looked at Marcus, then at her belly, then back at Marcus. She says do the surgery, Marcus translated. Save the last baby. Even if, his voice broke, even if she doesn't make it. Dr. Brennan looked at the 5-year-old boy, at the dog who somehow communicated with him and made a decision. Prep for C-section, now. As they prepared Hope for surgery, chaos erupted at the warehouse. Crane had released the fighting dogs, hoping they would attack the police and create enough confusion for him to escape. But something unexpected happened. The dogs, traumatized and fearful, ran straight to Daniel. All 12 of them, including 2 massive pit bulls covered in scars, gathered around him, tails tucked, seeking protection rather than attacking. It's okay, Daniel said softly, kneeling among them. You're safe now? No more fighting. Crane watched in disbelief from the window. Attack! He screamed at the dogs. Kill! But the dogs pressed closer to Daniel, some whimpering, others licking his hands. They had chosen kindness over cruelty, love over violence. It broke Crane's spirit. He surrendered, walking out with his hands up, defeated not by force but by the simple sight of his weapons choosing gentleness. Back at the clinic, Hope's surgery was underway. Marcus wasn't allowed in the surgical suite, but he sat just outside, his hand pressed against the door, whispering constantly. You're going to wake up. You're going to see all 9 of your babies grow up. Daniel needs you. I need you. Faith needs you." Samuel sat beside him, not trying to offer empty comfort, just being present. The clock on the wall ticked loudly in the silence. An hour passed. Then 90 minutes. "Finally, doctor." Brennan emerged, pulling off her surgical mask. Her face was exhausted but smiling. "The last puppy is alive, small but alive, and Hope." She paused, and Marcus held his breath. "Hope is stable. She lost a lot of blood, but she's a fighter. She's going to make it." Marcus burst into tears, falling into his grandfather's arms. Through his sobs, he kept saying, "I knew it. I knew she wouldn't leave us." Daniel arrived just as Hope was being moved back to recovery, the 12 rescued dogs having been taken to emergency shelters. He was covered in dirt and dog hair, but his eyes were bright with victory. Crane's in custody. He's looking at 20 years minimum, and the evidence Hope led us to? It's enough to shut down his entire network. He saw Hope, still unconscious but breathing steadily, surrounded by warming boxes containing 9 tiny puppies. His own eyes filled with tears. "You did it, girl," he whispered. "You saved them all." Faith, in the kennel beside Hope's, lifted her head and wagged her tail, as if understanding that the danger had passed. Marcus tugged on Daniel's sleeve. "Hope has something else to tell you, but she said to wait until she wakes up." Over the next 3 days, the story of Hope's rescue spread through Cedar Valley and beyond. News crews arrived, wanting to film the hero dogs and the boy who could understand them, but Samuel kept them away, protecting Marcus from the spotlight. "He's just a child who loves animals," he told reporters. "That's all." But it wasn't all, and everyone who'd been there knew it. Marcus's gift, whatever it was, had saved not just Hope and Faith, but 12 other dogs and potentially dozens more that would have suffered in Crane's operation. Hope recovered slowly but steadily. The 9 puppies thrived, growing stronger each day. Faith had her surgery and was expected to make a full recovery. Her own puppies, not due for another month, were developing normally. On the 5th day, Hope was strong enough to nurse her puppies for the first time. Marcus was there, of course, helping position the tiny creatures so they could reach their mother. "See," he told Hope, "all 9, just like you wanted." Hope's tail wagged, and she looked at Daniel, who hadn't left the clinic except to help process the rescued dogs. "What did Hope want to tell me?" Daniel asked Marcus. Marcus smiled. "She says your father left something for you, in the barn, under the loose floorboard where she used to hide. She says he talked about you every day. He was never disappointed. He was waiting for you to come home." Daniel's breath caught. Later that day, he went to the barn and found the loose board Hope had described through Marcus. Beneath it was a metal box containing photographs. Daniel as a child, with Hope as a puppy, Daniel's father at various ages, and a letter. The letter, yellowed with age but carefully preserved, was simple. "Daniel, if you're reading this, you've come home. I know why you left. I know why you did what you did. I was proud of you for standing up against cruelty, even if the law said you were wrong. Hope missed you every day, but she understood. She was always your dog, just on loan to me. Take care of her. Take care of yourself. And remember, redemption isn't about perfection. It's about choosing love over hate every single day. All my love, Dad." Daniel sobbed, holding the letter, while Hope, who had insisted on coming despite Dr. Brennan's protests, leaned against his leg. 2 weeks later, a special ceremony was held at the clinic. The 12 rescued dogs had all found foster homes, with several already adopted. Hope and Faith were recovering well, and their puppies were thriving. Officer Wilson announced that Crane's network had been completely dismantled, with dozens of arrests across 3 states. The evidence Hope had shown Marcus had been crucial in breaking the case. A dog and a 5-year-old boy accomplished what law enforcement couldn't do in years, she said, shaking her head in wonder. But the biggest announcement came from Daniel. He stood up, Hope beside him. She could walk now, though slowly, and cleared his throat. "I've decided to stay in Cedar Valley," he said. "I'm converting my father's property into a sanctuary for abused and abandoned dogs, a place where they can heal, where they can learn to trust again." The crowd erupted in applause, but Daniel wasn't finished. "And I want Marcus to be part of it. His gift, whatever it is, could help so many animals." If Samuel agrees, I'd like Marcus to help me work with the dogs, to be their voice." Samuel looked at his grandson, saw the joy and purpose lighting up his face for the first time since his parents died, and nodded. "We'd be honored." Marcus ran to Hope, hugging her gently. "Did you hear that? We're going to help other dogs, just like you." Hope's tail wagged so hard her whole body wiggled, and even Faith managed a happy bark from her recovery kennel. 6 months passed. The sanctuary was up and running, with 15 dogs currently in residence. Marcus spent every afternoon there, helping Daniel work with the traumatized animals. His gift had only grown stronger. He could sense what the dogs needed, what they feared, what would help them heal. Hope had become the sanctuary's unofficial therapy dog, her gentle nature helping other rescued fighting dogs learn to trust again. Her 9 puppies were all healthy and growing fast. 3 had been adopted by families in Cedar Valley, 2 had gone to become therapy dogs, 2 were training as search and rescue dogs, and 2 stayed at the sanctuary with Hope. Faith had delivered 4 healthy puppies of her own, all adopted by carefully screened families who understood their history. The well on the Henderson property had been filled in and a memorial garden planted above it. A small plaque read, "Sometimes the deepest wells lead to the highest purpose." Marcus stood in that garden one evening, Hope beside him, watching the sunset. His grandfather and Daniel were nearby, planning an expansion to the sanctuary. "You know what, Hope?" Marcus said softly. "That morning when I heard you crying, I thought it was the saddest sound in the world. But now I know it wasn't just crying. It was calling us to find each other." Hope looked up at him with those amber eyes that had seen so much cruelty yet still held so much love. She pressed against his leg, and Marcus felt what she was feeling: gratitude, peace, and something else. Family. They had all found family in the most unexpected way. A boy who'd lost his parents, a dog who'd lost her freedom, a man who'd lost his way, and an old man who'd lost his daughter. They'd all found each other in the darkness of a well and emerged into the light together. As the sun set over Cedar Valley, painting the sky in shades of gold and pink, Marcus heard something in the distance. Not crying this time, but barking. Happy, playful barking from the sanctuary, where damaged souls were learning to heal. "Come on, Hope," he said. "Let's go home." They walked together toward the sanctuary, where Daniel was teaching a scared pit bull to play with a tennis ball for the first time in its life, where Samuel was reading a story to 3 puppies, where Faith was running on her fully healed leg, where love was stronger than fear, and second chances weren't just possible, they were promised. The boy who could hear animals and the dog who wouldn't give up had started something beautiful. Not just a rescue, but a revolution of kindness that rippled out from Cedar Valley to touch hearts everywhere. Because sometimes the most extraordinary things come from the most ordinary moments. A child hearing a cry, a dog refusing to let go, a community choosing compassion over indifference. And sometimes, just sometimes, that's enough to change the world. Marcus looked back one more time at where the well had been, now a garden blooming with life. He remembered his mother's words, spoken what felt like a lifetime ago. "Your gift isn't just hearing animals, sweetheart. It's hearing what others miss, the cry for help that's too quiet for most to notice." She'd been right. And somewhere, somehow, Marcus knew she was watching, proud of the boy who'd turned his gift into a purpose, his pain into compassion. Hope barked once, as if agreeing, and together they ran toward the sanctuary where more animals waited to be heard, to be understood, to be saved. The dark sedan never returned to Cedar Valley. Crane was serving 25 years in federal prison. His network was destroyed, but more importantly, in a small town where a boy could hear what animals couldn't say and a dog's love could conquer the deepest fears, Hope itself had been rescued from the well, and it would never be abandoned again. If this story touched your heart, please like and share it with others who need to be reminded that miracles happen when we listen with our hearts. Comment below about a time when an animal changed your life, and don't forget to subscribe for more incredible true stories of hope, courage, and the unbreakable bond between humans and animals.